If I should die, think only this. A bullet flew by that did not miss. What story of the war is told? Romance bright or horror cold? Triumph's tale or tragic loss? The iron or the wooden cross? Lost lament or victor's boast? Full brass band or lone last post? Heroes, villains, cowards, kings, it's war. It's all these things. It's us, unleashed for good and ill, the gallant heart, the savage will, a Kaiser's pride, a nation's fear, a global greed. It's all in here. What causes war? The old book asks. Beyond the history, beneath the masks, begins a want, becomes a will, demands its way, prepares to kill. The wars we mark as long ago are close to home. They're all we know. What ceases war? The pressing question. What can halt inborn aggression?
To end all wars and retribution, war itself is no solution. Can terror end all terror now? Brute force subdue itself and bow? Can darkness drive out darkened dread? Or death extinguish death instead?
We need to interrupt the spiral, find the antiretroviral. The story is told of Anti-Zeus, a god of peace, made human truce. Into our world, into our midst, a walking, talking armistice. A king now meek, his power made weak, to stand and turn the other cheek. To take the blow, absorb disgrace, then rise to give again his face in grace undimmed and arms unfurled, to bless and pacify the world. And you, to sweet surrender brought, forgiveness for your battles fought, peace to pass to every soul, then warfare ceased from pole to pole.
Seek your kingdom throughout every sphere.
We long for heaven's demonstration here. Jesus, your light shine bright for all to see. Transform, revive, and heal society.
history's page. Make us again what we were made to be. Transform, revive, and heal society. Faithful to govern, ever may we be. Selfless in service, loving constantly. In everything, may your authority transform, revive, and heal society. Transform, revive, and heal society.
Well, good morning and a warm welcome to this Remembrance Sunday service. What would Jesus do? I've little doubt that that question has troubled many hearts and consciences in time of war. Jesus said 3 simple words: love your enemies. So in that case, what would a Christian be doing in a Lancaster bomber or a Sherman tank, or transporting weapons across the Atlantic in a convoy? I want to look at 3 Christians who wrestled with these questions in World War II and see what God did through them. It's an astonishing story, and in order to appreciate the second half, we need to learn a little bit about what they did in the first part during war. The first is a man called Glen. He was a very committed Christian, an Australian. Of course, many people flew with the RAF from all over the world. He was an Australian and a Methodist. He was a very moral man, a man with very strong principles, so much so that he refused to buy a newspaper on a Sunday in case he was breaking the 4th commandment. But similarly, he was prepared to fly in a Lancaster. He flew with 617 Squadron, the dam busters. He worked on that project, the bombing of those dams, the destruction of the dams, with another man, not a pilot in this case, but what was known as a boffin, Professor Barnes Wallis, the inventor of the bouncing bomb. He too was a Christian and a peace-loving family man. But in time of war, he was prepared to use his scientific skills to create bombs and weapons of destruction. The Bible twice has this sentence: you will turn your swords into plowshares. But did you know that it comes a third time, the other way around? In the book of Joel, we're told, you will turn your plowshares into swords. And that is exactly what these 2 men did. They saw that there was a great evil, the evil of Nazism, threatening Europe and the entire world. And Glen, the pilot, and Barnes Wallis, the boffin, decided that Ecclesiastes was correct. There was a time for peace and a time for war, and the time for war was now. Well, I'll be showing to people in church today the clip from the 1950s movie about the dam busters, the bouncing bomb. I guess lots of people won't have seen it. The computer graphics are a lot less effective than they would be today, but the story is amazing, and such a determination and a willingness to sacrifice themselves and to protect each other. And of course, so many on that raid lost their lives and would never come home. But there's a third person who's even more important to this story, and he also flew. He flew with RAF Coastal Command. The thing which worried Winston Churchill most of all during the war was the war in the Atlantic Ocean. If Britain were able to stand against the Blitz or even send armies into Europe, the greatest danger was always going to be submarines in the Atlantic. Because the U-boats could sink so many ships, Britain might simply not have been able to import sufficient food or ammunition. Many thousands of tons of shipping were lost, and many sailors and members of the merchant navy never came home. So defeating that submarine menace was the top of Winston Churchill's list. Flight Lieutenant Murray Kendon was involved in exactly this part of the war. He too was a committed Christian, a man who prayed every time he flew his aircraft. But once something happened to him. He was flying over the Atlantic. He and the crew spotted a German U-boat, and they succeeded in destroying it. Flying back, all the crew were elated. They were cheering and laughing. But he didn't. He thought, here am I, a Christian, taking my flying skills and using them to remove fathers from their children. It's the last thing in the world I want to do. I guess the sight of those men swimming in the water, waiting for their death, was just too great for him. He went home to pray about his future, to ask, is this what I, as a Christian, should be doing? Well, like Barnes Wallis, he too believed that ultimately the Nazis had to be stopped, and he was prepared to lose his own life if necessary to stop them. So he decided that yes, he must continue. He must see this thing through to the end. This was an evil that had to be defeated. But as he prayed, another idea came to him. Was it from God? Could it be that after the war, these Christian pilots might be able to create a new kind of air force? An air force in which they would use their skills for blessing and not for destruction. And as he read the Bible, he came upon this text from Revelation. I saw another angel flying in mid-heaven, and he had the eternal gospel to proclaim to those who live on the earth. He felt this was God speaking to him. But what was he to do? And who was this angel to be? Well, in 1945, the war finished and Murray Kendon was demobilised, demobbed in 1946. But he kept hearing God speaking to him continuously about this Air Force for good. And he actually came to London, hired a little office there, and prayed for an aeroplane. Now, I guess if you and I were to pray for an aeroplane, we probably wouldn't get one. If we prayed for a Mercedes, we probably wouldn't get one. That would just be asking for things we might like or want. But when Murray Kendon prayed for an aeroplane, God answered that prayer. It was part of his plan. The aeroplane duly arrived. Murray got into it and flew it. That aeroplane was like a seed out of which so much else would grow. As he flew the aircraft, he was determined to make this plane something that would bless people and not destroy them. Now, you may never have heard of Murray Kendon, but I'll tell you, you've heard of his organisation. It's called the Missionary Aviation Fellowship. That was the Air Force for Good he founded. And at the end of this sermon, I'm going to show you a clip from their promotion material just to show what extraordinary work they do and where they came from. We were thinking the other evening with our German guests about the God who is able to do more than we can ever ask or think. And as you look at that video and think of this man who prayed for a single aeroplane, think of that sentence again. God is able to do far more than we can ever ask or think. And today, Christian workers all over the world benefit from the many, many airplanes that Murray Kendon prayed into being, his Air Force for life. The skills he once used to kill, he turned into bringing life to other people. The skills he used for destruction would be used in the future for restoration. And you know, I guess if you were in a faraway place with no access to hospitals and your child was dying and you looked up and you saw one of these little planes coming in, I think it would feel to you as if you were looking at an angel flying in mid-heaven. Well, Kendon and the others, they carried their swords courageously until Nazism was defeated. And then God turned those swords back into plowshares. Out of so much evil came something so good. Enjoy this wonderful video.